Welcome. I'm Aaron Jack to the Aaron Jack Show, Artist to Art, here with Doing Good HQ. We're going to be here with Tech Keyz, Fabricio Paris, otherwise known as Tech Keyz. So thank you so much for joining. I'm really happy to have each and every one of you here joining us for today's episode with Tech Keyz. So we are going to go live. Thank you so much. Hey.
Hey, what's going on, man?
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Good, man. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me here in your living room.
Hell yeah. Well,
So,
it's good to be here.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. We've been talking about this for almost a year now, and I'm so happy to have this moment here with you today to explore your art, your ideas of NFTs, how you see the future, anything that comes to your mind, because for all the viewers watching, if you don't know tech in the in this NFT space, you've got to, and all of the clubhouse rooms that you've held down and projects you've worked on has been amazing to see you grow and build and help so many people over that time. Now, I'm curious, with all of that time, what's one thing that you would like to tell everybody out there watching about helping others and building community and creating that future you want to see in the world?
Well, yeah, I mean, community is really important when it comes down to like NFTs and what you're bringing to the table. Bringing value in the community is like a very important factor. So like figuring that out over time is like what you're really headed towards if you want to like be successful and like take more initiative, you know. And it's about either you can bring whatever you have to offer to your community. It doesn't technically have to be like art or, you know, I guess some people offer like financial like incentives, and other people can offer, you know, just a retweet mostly helps, or like certain little things can push forward an artist or like a project or whatever your community is getting into. And it would really, it like at first like communal ideas can like seem like they're not as important as they really are, but like if you just get involved in that like idea and like take it and run with it and help your community, like it can go a lot further than most people actually like think, you know?
Well, you've built such a great following of people and just held down space after space, time after time. What would you say to those just starting out there who don't really know where to start? How can they get involved or grow their own spaces or even help out ones that are around? What would you say to them?
I think like a good way to hold spaces is to like just show up and like schedule the spaces and be there, be present, talk about things that like people want to talk about, things that you are like knowledgeable on and can help others in. Yeah, I think that's like the most important part.
Now, you've helped so many others over time. What have you learned from this, helping others, and the way you've, done this through Clubhouse? I mean, I've seen through Clubhouse, and I'm guessing you've done it on other spaces as well in other ways, but maybe you could share a little bit about that, some of what you've learned through social audio and some of those intricacies that might not be apparent on the surface.
Yeah, I mean, so as you learn, things change. So you have to like adapt a lot, and there is different like I guess you would say obstacles when you like learn these things. That something might work for like 2 to 3 weeks and then stop working. So you have to like adapt and like relearn some like little tools that the app might have like introduced. And I think that this is like more apparent like everywhere on the internet nowadays. We're gonna see like little tools being introduced that you have to like be more aware of and then like adapt to those. So I think it's like more of like what I've learned is to like read the information that like the app is providing you when you're like trying to produce a certain marketing tactic or a certain tool.
You know, that's a very interesting point there about being updated on the apps, that it's not just like a constant, this is what you do. This is always how you do it. That you're always growing and changing with not only the community but the technology as well. And you
Yeah,
seem to be doing that in your art making practice.
absolutely. Yeah, I think that there's a certain thing that I want to provide for people with my art, and not only like something cool that you look at, but like some way of like retaining its value for you in the long term, and something that people can like really think of like getting a certain amount of value out of over time. So yeah.
And maybe, I don't know, do you have any art around you that you can show us? I didn't
Um,
ask you before.
yeah. So I have like two little pieces right there.
Hmm.
Um,
You're
but
welcome to take us closer. You're in charge of your own camera.
yeah, it's kind of on a tripod, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
kind of
Okay, you're
like
good.
zooming it up a little bit. Um, but yeah, so I have these two pieces, and these are a little bit further down on my Instagram, but like you guys can check them out on the feed. Um, but yeah, so as far as like my art goes, I might show a little something here or there as on Instagram, but it's not like everything that I like produce, and it's also like it might be like this for like a month, but I definitely am more prone to changing and molding different projects out until I finish, and then I go into a different project or a different pace of working. Uh, yeah, it varies in between cultural nuances and just nuances of spirituality and things that like I've seen through like my practices.
Yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more about those nuances because I'd like to approach and understand these NFTs for how you've developed as an artist, like what that relationship is to you as fully, so much of your work that I've seen is digital work that's just beautiful. And it's really, I see a development in your process over the last year, and I'd really like to know how is that interrelationship between you as an artist and also um, creating NFTs from that played into your lived experience.
Mm, it's interesting. I think the NFT world can be kind of like a little scary for some people and even like upcoming artists like myself. Um, there's like just so much good art and like hard flexes, that like are very, very prominent in the NFT space, and it can be a little like daunting, but um, I think the important part of just like making art is just to make it and create the art. Um, whether it be like in a style that encompasses the NFT space or just art itself. And I think that's just important, because like it might not be something that will be too like spectacular today, but as time goes on, you might have a very spectacular collection, and it'll just might not like take off right away, but it will take off and it will like retain very good value.
Well, I think that's really interesting is you've encouraged so many artists along the way, along this NFT journey in the last year. And, you know, those different things that you would tell them and encourage, and that it doesn't just happen alone, right?
Yeah, I mean, so as far as like uh how we say it doesn't happen alone, like it really doesn't. Like you have to be talking to people and expand your circle, go outside of like your comfort zone just to be like, hey, like, I like what you're doing, and like, do you want to like have some kind of like, connection and try to build together at some point in time. And that's where it really like can progress into something bigger, because then you could find like-minded individuals and then work together to like create a community, you know?
What have you seen in terms of finding like-minded individuals, reaching out, going beyond the network, working together, collaboration? What have you seen work in this space that's inspired you, that's kept you going in times that might be difficult?
Um, I've seen, as far as like right away that just like hits me, I've seen a lot of projects do like collaborations, but I've seen a lot of like artists do like a large collection, but one of one pieces that look particularly the same themed, which is like pretty like impressive, and a pretty good community that they can hold to be able to do that, you know? And I think that got a lot of like traction because it's a lot of accounts pushing the same thing.
That's a really interesting point because you bring up accounts, and we all have these accounts on different platforms and pushing and helping each other, building, growing each other's audiences, connecting with audiences. Um, and I think that's really interesting that it doesn't exist by itself. The art doesn't exist in a vacuum. Um, and you
It
certainly
can.
prove to me that every day you're on Clubhouse, like talking
It
with people, like
certainly
connecting.
it certainly can exist in a vacuum. You can talk to like the abyss for a long time when you're making art, and that can be something that as artists we have to learn how to deal with. Um, but it doesn't have to be, and that's what's important. Um, I think that finding the people that like what you're doing is like crucial to artists, and that's when you'll see like most of the change take over and be like, hey, like every time you post, like someone's there being like, dude, this is cool, like please, like let's get some more of that or whatever, and like those types of comments can really build like the audience that maybe like that was your friend for like 2 weeks that was doing that, but now it's like three other people that you don't even know, and then that's kind of like how that can progress.
That's really cool. That progression of that it's not just comments, but we're also talking about social audio. And for those who aren't quite aware of social audio, maybe you could explain how or why that's important for a visual artist to be involved in an audio format that goes beyond just showing the work, but goes to you talking and engaging with people.
Yeah, I think that the engagement and the social audio goes much farther than we actually can like encapsulate in like a few sentences, but um it is what kind of connects us in like the most simple form, right? It just directly is, if you say something really specific, you can catch it because that's kind of like how we were like raised to react as fast as possible. So it is like um kind of like revolutionary that we can host rooms like Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces where there's like a bunch of people listening to a few people having a conversation or a bunch of people having a conversation together, and like that's what's revolutionary about these apps and how it's moving.
Well, so that revolutionary manner of building and connecting with each other with a voice, um, it gets the heart and the core of how we connect as human beings, and in some way, it allows us to deepen our relationship with the art making process and each other.
Yeah, I think that uh the collaborations really like come through and are better made um when you can ask someone directly like, hey, what do you think of this, and they can tell you like, and you can hear like the intonations in their voice, whether like, you know, like texting someone like I like it and being like I like it like is like way two different things, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that can like produce better art in general for everyone coming along into this space. But I also think that like maybe like it's not only just about being in the space and just being like, hey, like let's like collaborate, or it maybe like might be more on like, hey, like I like what you're doing, let's like, you know, connect somewhere like at a festival or at like a actual location, and then being like getting something done, because not all of us are like, you know, digital artists. Like some of us do like painting and other like talents out there.
Well, I love that in terms of bringing that digital and physical world together. What do you imagine the world to be with these collaborations moving forward? What do you see happening in kind of like the edge of what is possible in terms of NFTs, collaborations, smart contracts, and building these metaverse digital spaces with physical spaces?
I think that there needs to be a lot of collaborating happening, especially to like reorganize a lot of like what has been organized in Web 2. So like a lot of these social platforms will be reorganized, or we hope that they will be reorganized. But and I think some of it is happening, but some of it is also being like moved and shifted in order to like not lose the position of being number one app on like the our like heads, you know, or you know, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat being like the number one apps, like, or whatnot. But yeah, I think like a lot of that has to be reorganized, and like we were like bigger companies than just artists, and bigger projects than just artists need to take over and do some of that actual work. And I think that it's happening, but it's happening very slowly. And you know, nothing great happens like overnight, but it's gonna look like it's overnight once everything like actually takes place, you know.
What does the future of Web3 look like? First of all, what is Web3? what does Web3 look like from your point of view? And then what is that future of Web3?
Web3 is like a decentralized space, I guess. Like there is something as sort of like censorship as far as like you can't be like throwing like, you know, uh explicit images everywhere, but um there is like barely a way to actually censor someone if we're talking about like the true blockchain, right? So Web3 kind of is like a blockchain that, or we could call it like a database that like can't be changed, right? Where that holds more of these platforms accountable and holds more of these like and holds humans more accountable to like what they're doing on the internet, you know? Which is like what's cool about like it, I think that eventually like it'll reduce the amount of trolling and bots that there are on the internet. I think right now we're seeing a increase of bots, but as we cross over to this Web3 thing and you need like a verification or an authentication of like a person behind the machine, we'll see like a reduction of bots. Um, and that's going to be interesting too, you know, because I think that that'll be a forever fight at this point. But it'll vary.
That's really interesting, the verification of the human behind it all. And this is also very interesting as we become like our PFPs or and things like that, or we become our imagery that we create and then sell uh, a version of ourselves, a vision of ourselves to others to create that image of themselves. How do you see that progressing in the future between the imagery we see of ourselves and the human behind it? How do you see that interrelationship?
So as far as I see it right now, is that there's like pixels, pictures of like drawings, like photorealism 3D, and then there's just like photos, right? So you can actually scan yourself in with like certain locations that like actually have like a 360 camera view of stuff. Um, you can just make a model, a 3D model of yourself, or you can be like a drawing you select or a picture of pixels that you select, which is more prominent right now. I would say pictures of pixels that you select are easier to walk around with in like the metaverse or in like a video game, I would say, right? Um, but as we move along, like there will probably be like images of things that aren't pixels come along that you can move around with. And then, you know, once Sony and Xbox, Microsoft adopts like the Web3 mentality, they will be building in this space as well.
That's very interesting. You're talking about the Web3 mentality, that it's not just Web3, the thing that itself, but there's a mentality behind it that I think is very important for people to know when they're jumping into this, that there's a certain mentality that's not just jumping into the space, but there's a connection with the people. There's a connection with an ethos, and maybe there's and I think that there's probably many multi subcultures behind that. But what do you consider to be that ethos or parts of that ethos that people should be looking at?
Mm, that's like hard to say, and it's more like time in the market is what I would describe it as. Just like being around learning, understanding how to buy and sell um, things with your wallet. That is like very important. Not clicking on any links, like staying very safe about like your actual bank account and things like that. Um, you know, it's people call it like the Wild West, but I think it's just more of like introducing like new products that aren't betas yet or are betas. So like there is a lot of just fluctuation into like what's good and what's not, and like you know I would say hacker interventions over like companies being like, oh, we need to fix that, and then relying on them to fix it. Now it's more of just like the world's responsibility to fix something, you know? So like whoever can fix it and has the mental capacity to be like, oh, you have a vulnerability right there, like will get a certain amount of cash at this point. Because vulnerabilities are like get hacked for a certain like good amount of wealth, right? So I believe like that's why certain things are happening back a little bit ago, like maybe like half a year ago. Some of these vulnerabilities were encouraged to be like found, and then a reward was offered up for like the return of the lump sum, right? Um, More and more nowadays, people are trying to like find the hackers and be like, "Oh, you can't do that," but you can't encourage a whole community to go out and do things and then stop them when you think it's like okay. I think that's one way to look at it, but another way to look at it is just like there's a time to stop trying to break the boat, you know? So two sides of the coin right there.
It's very interesting in terms of the self-policing culture that you see. And I'm curious about some safety things that you'd say for, you know, novice to expert Web3 artists, creators, collectors, future collectors, that you'd say just like, watch out for these things, do do's and don'ts of safety.
Turn off your DMs, your personal DMs on Discord. Just turn it off. You don't need it. Anybody that needs it otherwise, you know. If someone wants to contact you from a general chat that you were in, tell them to contact you over Twitter. Don't click on their links over Twitter. Just don't click on links. That's generally the case. Just be safe, you know.
So don't click on links, turn off your DMs on Discord. Those are two big things.
Yeah,
Like find trust with people, click on links of people that you trust, that you've gotten to know.
usually, usually, right? Anyone that can send you something as far as like a link is just like an image, and they can screenshot it and send it to you. Then like there will be like those certain times that you'll need to click on links, and those usually won't be people that like you don't know.
So there's a certain amount of like getting to know people in the space, that it's not that you can't, that it's not just like going in listening to information. There's a certain amount of engagement that needs to happen, because that's where you'll find mutual trust, that sitting in the audience is not or listening to just this video. This is just the beginning of a journey or a little piece of it. To listen to what, us talking is a little piece that can give the information to go into speaking, engaging, and finding others to
Yeah,
build trust with. What do you say?
yeah, I don't think it's something you have to be scared of as far as like if you're engaging with some people like that you're like, oh, like they're gonna send me a link and I'm gonna have to click on it or something. Like you don't have to be scared of it. You can just like engage any other normal way that you engage. And usually like, like anything that the app's gonna verify if the person has like the correct Instagram in there or the correct Twitter, like those are fine. Like you can check that out. Um, but like there's not much that you should be like trading as far as like, yo, check this link out. Just ask for the URL and you type it in. Like it doesn't, and then if it's fishy, like I wouldn't type that in. Um, but overall, like, we're all trading mostly on OpenSea or a certain platform. So, like, as far as like those links go, like, you can definitely type that in and just be a little cautious about like actually like, how you are interacting with others. But, not as far as your voice or your ability to talk to others. I don't think like that's where you should be cautious on. So just get out there and engage and produce like more friends. That's what it's all about.
I love that. Just like get out there and we have a question here. How do you know what's fishy?
Um, so out of like the most like visited websites that you go to, like everything's like .com, maybe like a .io here and there, but everything should look exactly like they look. Do some internet work, right? Be on the internet. Don't do anything different that you wouldn't do. Check all your URLs as you're using the internet. And then once you start looking at these actual links, you'll start noticing the differences between links. So just look at how you navigate the internet and look at the links you're usually on. Look at how they look like, and then you'll be able to kind of be like, oh, what is that? But just takes a little time, takes a little like extra attention.
Beautiful. And so you're talking about also about like engaging with people. How would you how would you put this to an artist that's never engaged with their voice online? How would you say to start that journey and find the inspiration, the courage to move into that space? What have you seen? Because you've found so many people at the start of their voice journey. What have you seen? How have people progressed through that and found a voice themselves?
Um, I think it's more about just like being present and like engaging in like things that you like. Maybe you won't fit into every community, but I think that a big part of like um, what was successful for me is that I started engaging with others outside of like the normal community, and that's what I think that was what was impactful for me and like what made me able to like expand upon different people and different like communities to come together to make a big one. Um, so I think it's more about to just gravitate towards the things that you do like and do like to be involved with. Um, and then not be so like closed-minded on like things that you might not get involved with, you know? That's important.
I'd like you to expand upon that, because I know there's so many people who are just listening and haven't gotten the courage to engage in a group conversation, um, and I just love for you to expand.
Um, let's see. There's been a bunch of times where I've been like, ah, that's not gonna do well, and like it's like everyone's just buying this NFT. I'm just like, nah, I'm not gonna buy that. It's like $200. Like, I'm not gonna buy that. Why would I buy this weird looking picture of like a dog, you know? Like, what is that about? Um, and then all of a sudden, like, that thing is like $3,000, you know? And that's what it's more about just being open minded into doing things that like you normally wouldn't do, you know? So I just recommend people to like buy NFTs, but like do your research when buying NFTs. So like definitely a good time to do it, definitely the time to do it, but just maybe not this week, not next week, but maybe a month from now after you have done all of your studying by the NFT. It's not a.
What does
It's
studying
not
in?
like a.
Mhm.
Oh, go on. Go on.
Oh, I was just wondering, what does studying include to purchase an NFT? Because I want to focus a little bit on the collectors now. Now I think here is like,
Mhm.
what would you say? Because there's artists, and then there's artists who are also collectors, and a lot of artists collect each other's works and create and talk about it. What does studying about an NFT include for you on the side of like, okay, there's a small artist, there's a collection, there's maybe different categories that you might study different things for. Could you describe some of that for us, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is. So as far as like artists go, if like you really like an artist, you like what they're doing, you like their stuff, you like their art, talk to them, get to know them, see how they're doing, you know, and see if like you engage with them like that, um, and then you know support them. Uh, and as far as like projects go, like see what the project is doing, you know, like see what they're getting involved in, and then also just like support the project and get involved in the community, you know. If you buy into a project, you're not really supposed to just like walk away. You kind of are supposed to be like, hey, look at what I bought. Hey, look at what I bought. You know, maybe like get one, maybe in like get check out this project, you know, look at what they're doing. Show people how to like get more involved and whatnot. Um, I would say do the same thing for artists, like champion their work. Be like, yo, this artist is freaking amazing. Check out their work. This artist is super cool. Check out their work, you know? And like that, that's kind of like what will speed things forward for people.
I love that you're really speaking about the championing of an artist, of a project, of something that you believe in, that you're excited about, that you want to see more of in the world. That's it goes beyond liking and sharing. It goes to talking, discussing, uh, creating around it.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about what championing means to you and what you've seen work and help, maybe not just even help you, but help the artists and creators and projects around you?
Yeah. I think it's important, and I think that as far as like championing goes, I think that a lot of people do it with projects, and they're very like adamant about doing it with the project because they can kind of see more of a community forming under that. And I almost feel like it's a little easier to form a community under a certain project. But I think that it's also important to do it with artists and show that there can be communities formed under artists as well, and that will be able to push forward a project that the artist might have, or their art and a collection that they might have.
That's really interesting in terms of what does that mean for the modern digital artist's career in terms of championing a project, a series, a body of work. Maybe you could get into that because I think there's a lot of questions about that, and I think you've seen a lot that's worked over time before so many. I knew that you were doing what now people are just beginning to understand. You were doing months and months ago in terms of seeing what an artist's body of work could be created, how it could be championed, how an audience could understand it and be a part of that journey. Can you talk a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, well, I think we've seen like a lot of this right before certain things and certain implements or additions to like the app, or like apps that they got, like before Twitter had Twitter Spaces, before Instagram had stories, before these things like got implemented. We saw a lot of this happening between like artists that were very famous already, right? Or had like a very good, uh, I would say, consistency over the platform. Um, they made large amounts of followings and had like people championing them everywhere. Like you could see these people in Instagram, but you could also go to like a festival locally and see them there as well. So I think that that was very important for some of these influencers and like artists that like were on the platforms. And now that things are changing, I think that it's important to try and push and make certain pushes or certain like um I would say certain moves to be able to gain that community that allows you to like sustain your work. I think that the work of an artist is much more than just like what he makes on a canvas or like what you create in a photo. I think it's like how many people you can bring together, or what you say, or your message of the photo and or canvas, and that's what is going to be like revolutionary here when we actually like start listening to people and like their messages, and why this one line on a blank piece of paper means so much more and is worth so much more than like anything we actually like see on a day to day, you know?
I think that's really interesting what you're saying about that. It's not just about talking about all these numbers and the technology and all of that, but really the message behind the art, the message of the artist, the message of the creator. What's being said here is really important, and how people get together around a message. Um, and speaking from that place of voice where there's a message and there's also a message on the canvas, then this connection between the visual and the audio, the creation and the creator. Uh, what would you say uh, about the message? I like on a larger scale, like what have you seen that's been inspiring to you, and then how have you implemented that message into your own work?
I think that we all have like a different approach on that, and I think that it's interesting to see how people approach it actually. I don't think that I have the perfect answer to something like that because I'm still working on creating community, developing, and helping people, uh, share my stuff and putting the ideas out there, But I think that I I learn a lot from others when they like take different approaches into doing something like that, and it's nice to sometimes sit in the background and see what's going on and take it all in, um, and then try to plan an approach or a different way of creating a community, with some help from like how others are doing it.
I think that's really interesting, that kind of inspiration and seeing how others are doing. And as you build your voice as an artist, what are some messages that you speak about in your work that you would like more people to understand or connect around or be a part of? I know that you probably have many messages, but what's one or a few that you would like to discuss further with the new communities that are
Mm.
listening to you for the first time?
It's interesting. I think that there's like a few messages that I put out very like intensely. Um, One of them being like love everyone, So I think like I'd probably retain that message as far as like I can continue to push it. But also just like a way of like there is a type of individualism in these photos, and the one that you pick is kind of sort of individualized to you. Um, but that's it's a little deep and a little meta for the topic at hand, I guess. Um,
No, you can go for it. You can get deep in meta. We've got a couple minutes left.
uh, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting project that I'm developing right now. So I know it's kind of like in the NFT fashion, but it does like expand into like why it's done that way and how, you know.
You got to tell us. I mean, any project I want to know about, because
So
I've seen you come up with so many cool things, and
so
sometimes I miss where they go, but they're just so cool looking, and there's so many cool people part of your collaborations. I just want to know more, as someone kind of a little bit on the outside sometimes of your projects, but they just always look so cool, and I'm like flying through metaverse spaces with like rotating objects and crazy 3D things, and I'm just like, tell me more. What's going on behind it? What are you thinking about?
yeah.
What's going on now?
Um, So right now I'm like developing like some kind of like different style futuristic forward metaverse helmets. I actually just had a collab with Jay. I think his name is Don Jane, in Instagram, but you can see it on my profile. It's like the third one in, and I think like that one kind of represents like an alienated type of VR helmet. Um, I really like how that one came out. So um, yeah, that's kind of like what I'm getting into though. As far as like how Meta and like the NFT projects are going, but like Metaverse Meta, not like Facebook Meta, you know. Um, how those things are going, I think that it's an interesting take to do like VR type helmets and being like, okay, well, this is what you guys are kind of talking about, and like this is what we're all talking about, kind of, you know. So headed into like the future and like what things could potentially look like in the future is like kind of like what I'm trying to get into and touch up on.
Wow. So as we wrap this up in the next few minutes, um, I want to know, what does that future of NFTs, Web3, all of this look like near, long term? What do you see happening? What should we be looking out for? And what's that to you as an artist? And what should we be looking for
I think
and
like
paying attention to?
there's a lot of groundwork being laid right now. Um, and I think as things move forward, there's going to be like more built um, and better graphics, better projects, nicer quality art. Though there is like really good art right now, but there will probably be bigger studios, 100K projects, maybe. I don't know how crazy that's gonna be, but you know, it's gonna it's gonna happen.
Wow. Wow. So bigger projects, bigger amounts of people in on a project, larger communities of people all talking behind it, buying these things, talking about whatever messaging there is to message about, right? Talking about ideas and subjects. And uh, is there anything else you want to add to that future and where you would like it to be and how people can be a part of that?
Well, we can all be a part of it. That's that's kind of cool. Just get involved. Talk to artists in Web3, see what you can do, see if there's any. Dude, there's so many jobs out there for like Web3, and it's a lot of it is like front end web design. So it's just about wanting to get involved, you know.
That's awesome. So anyone can get involved, right? They just need to jump on, and there's artist work that are only a few tez or like a couple dollars, a couple euros, right? Like you can get in it at any level, right? You don't have to come in with hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Yeah, yeah, you can do different blockchains, and then that'll be what it is, you know. You gotta kind of understand why certain people are doing the most expensive things, and like why that's like what are the benefits of that, and then what are the risks and benefits of doing something at a cheaper level, you know.
There's so much to delve into, but we're just about out of time here. And I want to give you a couple last words before I wrap up, because there's so many projects out there. You're involved in it for so long and engaged with it every day. And I want to make sure that everybody here can know where to find you, and be able to be a part of your growing community and learn more from you.
Absolutely. If you guys want to check out the link in my bio, there's a Discord um, link in my link tree. You guys can join my Discord and be a part of the community. I'm in there like every other day, and if you guys want to message me, I can just answer that.
Where spell out your handles here, like
It's
Instagram, Twitter.
at Tech Keyz pretty much everywhere. At techkeys.eth on Twitter. Yeah.
And that's how is that spelled?
I think you pinned it right there.
Yeah, but we're gonna watch this later on.
Oh, okay. It's at Tech Keyz, TechKeyz.
Perfect, perfect. So go follow Tech Keyz. I'm Aaron Jack with Aaron Jack Show, Artist to Art, here with Doing Good HQ, and so you can follow me at Aaron Jack Line Art on Instagram, at I am Aaron Jack One on Twitter, and they can also follow both of us on Clubhouse, right? If they just follow
Absolutely.
all those links.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. All right. Do you have any last words that you would like to leave us with? Just something from your heart to leave us off.
I hope everybody has a great day. Take care, guys.
Thanks so much.
All right, peace, dude.
Peace. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Again, I'm Aaron Jack with Aaron Jack Show, Artist to Art. We're here with Doing Good HQ. We just had Tech Keyz on. I'm so happy to have another episode with each and every one of you every week. Thank you to Doing Good HQ, where you can get your NFTs online with up to 200 collaborators on a single smart contract, all divided up and all of that, with 5% or more going to a nonprofit, getting you, the creator, the artist, or even the collector, to be a philanthropist. It's beautiful. So thank you to Doing Good HQ, and make sure to follow me at Aaron Jack Line Art on Instagram. I am Aaron Jack One on Twitter, and I'll see you next week for another beautiful experience in this moment of time.